the Luxembourgish government reacted very fast and very well. They were very well organized. They informed about the situation very often, so they tried to keep us informed as much as possible. Fortunately, they didn't close borders like in many countries because of frontaliers. So we have like 100 people working, living abroad and working in Luxembourg. So they come every day to Luxembourg for work, and they don't work only in finance. They work for health sector. In the health sector, they work for service companies like telecommunication, food stations, supermarkets. So they needed also the certificates to cross the borders.
The British government was very, very strict with the regulations. I think even in comparison to some of the neighboring European countries, everything is shut down. We are not keeping anything open except grocery stores and pharmacies, the really essential stores, restaurants completely shut down. And for example, I live in a small village about 30 minutes outside the center of Luxembourg. What I noticed is that they had police cars driving around, checking that people were not outside in gatherings. And, this isn't like the center of Luxembourg. It's not somewhere you would expect people to gather, but they were doing police patrols. Also, when we went to the grocery stores were very, very strict. I would go with my father and they would say, are you two together as in one family unit? And we would say yes. And they would say, no, only one member per family can come in.
On a réouvert pas lentement. On a décidé qu'on pouvait se voir à 5 personnes, 6 personnes à la maison, puis augmenter à 20 personnes, je pense. Puis il y avait d'autres restrictions qui sont venues parce que les cas ont recommencé d'augmenter. Il y a toujours le port de masque obligatoire.
It was in the middle of the semester for me of my third year. And my parents were like, well, we really want you to come back. We don't want you to be in New York if this really hits. But actually what kind of shocked us all was when Trump imposed the travel ban on Europe, because I have a couple of European friends in New York City, and we were all like, oh, no. Like, we are not getting stuck in the US if the pandemic hits. So then actually my university announced that they're closing for the rest of the semester to deal with the crisis. Most of my friends, and me included actually, I had a part-time job in New York that could be done remotely, but I lost it because it was a startup.
Les concerts en France, en Allemagne, qui ont été reportés. Cela se manifeste aussi aspect financier. Pas de boulot, il n'y a pas d'argent. C'est très grave toute la scène, non seulement au Luxembourg, mais dans tout le monde. Moi, je ne vais pas entrer trop dans le négatif parce qu'on ne peut pas changer la situation, il faut vivre avec.
I was a little bit worried about the situation. It was very hard to stick to all the rules at the beginning. So working from home, doing all my things from home, and going only for shopping or for walk and alone, for example. So my social life also limited to a minimum, but thanks to the technology, I could keep my professional contacts and my social contacts and contacts with my friends and with my family, which was very, very important. So I think we have to appreciate the whole technological revolution which has been made from last 10, 15 years, because I cannot imagine this kind of situation like 20 years ago.
J'ai remarqué que tous les pays sont tombés dans des types nationalistes, mais c'était plutôt les pays individuels qui ont pris des mesures, peut-être pas toujours en accord ou en discussion avec certains. Mais par contre, je ne sais pas si on peut vraiment lutter contre une telle crise de manière européenne. Il y a des situations différentes dans différents pays. Il y a des réalités économiques.
I think that the European Union members, they had a big communication problem at the beginning because they couldn't find a unified, standardized response to the crisis. They couldn't agree on a rescue plan. which is not the issue anymore. But still, I think people were worried about the European Union because all the fundamental values and priorities of the European Union were in danger, No free movement of people, of services, goods somehow, and all our freedom, all our rights were also limited to minimum.
First, I remember we were discussing it in my European politics classes, and we were all saying this is not going to be good for the EU. First there was the sovereign debt crisis, then the refugee crisis, then Brexit, and this is just going to be the final nail on the coffin. So that was my feeling as well, even though I've always advocated for the EU, and growing up in Luxembourg, you really see the EU as something to rely on, as something that will help you. But I was just like, I don't think they're going to come out of this in a good situation. But now 3 months into the pandemic, I have to say, the EU really pulled through. And I'm not saying they came out unscathed and that they, did everything perfectly, but they really managed to somehow come together, all the member states, and figure out ways in which to combat this pandemic together, from helping the economy with the 750 billion euro stimulus package, which is not nothing. This is a huge package. And then also their cooperation between member states. For example, countries such as Luxembourg and Germany, which had spare hospital beds. I know Luxembourg took in a lot of French residents who lived on the border and said, you can come into Luxembourg and be treated here. Then on the flip side, Luxembourg is reliant very much on France for its doctors and nurses. So it was this really nice exchange. So I think you really saw, even though people didn't predict this would happen, you really saw European solidarity between countries.
I think it's not only financial crisis, economical crisis, it's the humanitarian crisis, first of all. And worldwide, in Luxembourg, the unemployment rate increased to 6.9%, according to the statistics. It's the rate I have never seen before. And also the number of job seekers increased by 31% compared to last year. But I think the impact of the crisis of the economy of Luxembourg will be lower, will be not so huge compared to other countries of European Union.
Je pense que l'Union européenne a du terrain à regagner parce que c'était la première fois des frontières fermées. Pour moi, c'est vraiment le truc essentiel, passage des frontières. Et là, c'était vraiment drôle. La police frontière, bien que c'était toujours possible de traverser si on avait une raison. Moi, j'ai vu que l'Union européenne, c'est pas un truc qui est peut-être moins ancré dans la société ou dans la réalité.
I think for the next year or so, you're really going to see a boost for European integration. And I'm already seeing this, especially in terms of the medical sector and the research sector. There's already a lot more cooperation between EU countries on this. And I find the coronavirus pandemic proved that if you want to have this European project with, open borders, with blended, with economies that really are kind of meshed and blended, you're going to need cooperation on more sectors because, as you saw with the health sectors, European countries really had to collaborate when there's a pandemic that's just spreading like wildfire because of the open borders. So I think in that aspect, you're also going to see a lot more cooperation between member states. I think also on a global scale, you're going to see that other areas in the world and other countries the EU is going to start playing a bigger role in terms of, global responses to not only pandemics, but also in the economic and political sectors.